Now let's talk about data entry. Now, if I'm carrying out a research and I use questionnaires, how am I going to make my SPSS useful to me? How am I going to enter my data into SPSS? So we have here an example of a questionnaire. So we can see this is a questionnaire, a work done on knowledge, attitude towards practice of substance abuse among secondary school students. So let's take, for example, this is the questionnaire you printed out and used for your survey work. You got it filled, and now you're about to enter your data into SPSS for analysis. So how do you start? How do you go about entering your questionnaire into SPSS? That's what data entry entails. So the first thing you will do, of course, is to open your SPSS. Then you open your variable view. Now, you know, in the previous video we've already explained what's the basics of all the various columns of your SPSS. So of your variable view, to be exactly. So the first thing I'm going to do is to code in my questionnaire, like I explained earlier. Code in my questionnaire. So I'm going to start like this. Okay, so we can see that the first question we have here is the age as our last birthday. Second is sex, class, just like that. Now, but usually it is safe to use this first row for your serial number. That is the serial number you used in numbering your questionnaires. You want to be sure that your questionnaires are up to the amount you sent to the feed and collect and retrieved from the feed. So to ensure that the number of your questionnaires are correct, you may want to number each of the questionnaires. And when you number them, it is also good, it is wise, or let me say, okay, it is wise you impute that serial number in your SPSS as well, so that as you are entering, you are sure of not missing out any of the questionnaires. You are sure you are going in the right order, and you are sure of going in the right order and not missing out any of your questionnaires. So what I'll do now is that my first row will be for my serial number. I'm going to put my serial number there. Now my serial number, you know, is going to include 1, 2, 3, 4 continuous data. So I'm going to use numeric for it because they are figures. I'm going to use numerals. So I'm going to leave it at numeric. With 8, of course, 8 is okay. I'm not going to type much big stuff there. Decimals, I don't need any decimal places, so I'm going to reduce it to 0. Labels, I can leave it empty. I can just put serial number of respondents if I want to, but putting a label there is not really necessary. Then values, I don't have to put anything under values. Missing, there's no point in putting anything under missing. Coulombs, I think the 8 is quite okay. But now I'm going to put, although it doesn't really matter, but I'm just going to put scale there because it's my, I'm going to use continuous variables, continuous data for that, my first row. So I'll move over to the second row now. So we can see the first question we have there is age as a last pair. The second one is sex, the third one is class. So let's begin. So my first column is age. I just want to type age. Age, I'm going to leave age in numeric because age is actually numeric. But I'm going to put my age in scale because it is continuous data. They are ratios. So so it means okay, but you can see I have two decimals there. I'm going to reduce it to 0. The next one is The next one is class of the respondents. So I'll type class. Sorry. The next one is sex of the respondents. So I'm going to type sex. Now, my sex, I'm going to leave it in numeric because I'm going to code it with figures. So it will be in numeric. I'll remove my decimal places because I don't need any decimal places. So, okay, so I'm going to type here sex of respondents. Sorry. Sex of respondents. Okay. And this age of respondents. So for my values, I'm going to, of course, sex contains of two genders, the male and female gender. So I'm going to do my coding, 1 for male, add, and 2 for female. It can as well be 1 for female, 2 for male, whichever one you prefer. I'm going to add. Click on OK. So you can see the reason why I had to leave it in numeric because I was going to code it as 1 and 2. Now for missing, there's not going to be any missing value here because everybody has a gender. It's either the person is a male or the person is a female. Now let's talk about the measure. Male is a nominal data as we explained earlier, so I put it in nominal. So the next question in our questionnaire is class. Now for this a work among this knowledge attitude towards practice of substance abuse among secondary school students. So this means it covers from GS1 to SS3. I have to take that into consideration because I will have to code my class from GS1 to SS3. So I'm going to impute my class. I'm still going to leave it in numeric. I remove my decimal place. I'm going to put my description here. Class of respondents. Okay. Now I'm going to code it. Code it as 1 JSS1 add 2 JSS2 add 3 JSS3 add 4 sorry SS1 SS1, or let me just leave it as small caps, SS1 add 5 SS2 6 SS3 add. So I'm done coding my class for secondary school students. Now if you observe something I did, from the questionnaire I used, these classes were not stated, but however I have to make my work easy by coding it according to what I'm going to expect. Now I could actually have left a string so that as I see the class, I will type SS1, SS2, but that can really make analysis difficult, especially when there are mixtapes in the there's inconsistency in typing my classes. It can make analysis difficult. So because I already envisioned that this is what I'm going to get, I coded it already from GS1 to SS3. Now missing, there won't be any value for missing because all my respondents have a class. Everybody will have a class, so there should be an answer for everyone. Either person is in GS1, GS2, SS3, and so on. So I won't have any likely missing values for my class. Now I'm going to come here to my measure and put it and choose ordinal. I'm choosing ordinal because, like we explained earlier, there is a ranking. Okay, so let's go to the next question. The next is ethnic group, and you can see the options we have. We have Hausa, Igbo, Benin, Esako, Esan, Yoruba. Now, I want us to know something about this. Now, this is a study done in Benin City. So, we are going to expect, of course, the major ethnic groups, Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba. And you're going to expect the Edo ethnic group, Benin, Esako, Esan, and O1 and all the rest, but you can see that not everything is coded here. So if I'm used to research work in Benin environment or in Edo State environment, and I know what I expect, it is safer for me to code everything already, like code as many ethnic groups I can possibly get in Edo State, anticipating the responses I will get. Now that will make the work easy for me because I won't have to leave anything in string and I won't have any complications during analysis. So let's go to our SPSS variable view. Now the next one is ethnic group. Now I'm going to type ethnic. And I'm going to use underscore because, like I explained earlier, it doesn't allow for any space. Ethnic group. I'm still going to leave it in numeric because I'm going to code it. I don't need any decimal places. I'm going to remove my decimal places. So yeah, I can type ethnic group of respondents. Okay, sorry. All right. So you see, the label gives me a chance to explain what I mean by putting ethnic group there. Now for my values, I'm going to start my coding. 1, I can put 1 for Benin City. Benin, oh sorry, my keyboard. I'm going to put 1 for Benin. Okay, Benin ethnic group. 2, and I want to put Igbo, or better still, I may just prefer to use the way it was coded here, Hausa, Igbo, Benin, although you mustn't stick to that. So, but you must make sure you represent everything you have here, but it's actually better you follow this order. So the first one we have there is Hausa. We have Hausa followed by Igbo, followed by Benin. So we're gonna do just that. So the first one, so we're gonna do just that. So the first one is Hausa add. second one is Igbo. Add. The third one is Benin. Add. Then we have Esako, Esan Yoruba. So 4 we have Esako. Add. 5th one we have Yoruba. Add. The 6th we have Esako Yoruba. So we have Esan before Yoruba. So we have Exan before Yoruba. Change. Then 6 we have Yoruba ethnic group. Sorry, Yoruba. Add. You add it. Then, since this is Benin City, I may likely expect some ethnic group from Delta, for example, Urobo and Isoko. So, to make my work easy, so that I don't have to come back and recode when I begin to see questionnaires with Isoko and Urobo, I just do my coding already. So I'm going to put 7 for Urobo, 8 for Isoko, because I may likely see many of these in. I'm also going to add O1 ethnic group because this is Edo State. So I'm going to type O1. And finally, I'll put the rest of my ethnic groups under others. Sorry. So every other ethnic group will fall under others. I click OK. So this ethnic group will know there is no ranking in ethnic group variables, so we're going to use nominal for this. After I'm done coding my variable view, that is imputing all my questions into my variable view, the next thing I'm to do is to enter my collected data into my data view. Now, but I want us to take note of certain things I did here. You can see that for the level of income, I have to code it with skill level. I have to code it with skill level because it helps to group all the incomes of your respondents. Helps to group the occupation of your respondents, be their own occupation or the occupation of their parents. And it's also ideal you used a recommended classification. For example, the skill level is the ILO classification for occupations, for you to be able to reference your work, to reference where you get this from, so it doesn't look like you are working on your own terms. Also, instead of using your skill level, you can use socioeconomic classification. For socioeconomic classification, we have the lower, middle, and upper economic class. There are standard classifications you can use for your work and which you can also reference. There are a number of supervisors who prefer you use socioeconomic classification, and some might just be okay, you leave it at skill level. But however, it is not professional is not advisable, you put in the very occupation there. For example, trader, driver. So you can see I did same both for the occupation of the mother, occupation of the guardian. Now I want us to take note of something. You can see that for my yes and no questions, let's go to the questionnaire, and this is my questionnaire. So we can see a questionnaire. Have you heard about substance abuse? Yes, no. So you can see I represented 1 for yes, 2 for no. Now ideally you should use 0 for no, because when you are analyzing, you have to represent all your wrong answers with no. This for the advantage of computing and scoring your data. So however, coding it as 1 for yes and 0 for no from the beginning will give you some difficulty when entering your data. So, and the reason for that difficulty is because if you look at your keyboard, you can see that where your 1 and 0 are located are quite far apart, but you can see that 1 and 2 are very close to each other. So when you're entering your data, you can just put your finger in between both tabs in your keyboard, and if it is yes, you tap 1, 2, you tap no, and that makes data entry very easy. Then when you are done entering your data, when you are about to do your analysis, you have to control find all the no answers and change them to 0. That's actually advisable. That will make analysis easier and faster for you. Now I want us to take note of this 18, 19, 20, 21. I'm going to show us the way it is represented in the questionnaire. Now the reason why it is like this, first of all, let me explain. The reason why it's like this is because okay, now the question is source of electronic information, and we can see the question here fully explained here. What is the source of your information? The options we have are electronic media, internet, school, peers, parents, health workers. But however, we have to spread them so that each of them will occupy their own rows. And the reason for this is because this very question is a multiple answer question, a multiple response question. So it means that your respondent is allowed to answer more than one. And if that be the case, it is ideal you put each of the options in their separate rows so you can get your respondent's answer for each of them represented in your SPSS. So we can see we have internet, we have school, we have peers, like it is in the questionnaire. This is the questionnaire. What is the source of your information? Multiple response, electronic media, internet, school. So the case where your respondent ticks electronic media, ticks internet, ticks school, ticks peers, you can easily represent all his answers in your SPSS spreadsheet. But if you have, in a situation where you have to code everything as one, that is, for example, instead of putting yes and no for electronic media, you put 1 internet, 2 school, 3 peers, 4 parents. When you do that, it won't give your respondents the chance to answer. It won't give you the chance to represent the response of your respondent for each of the options. I'm sure you get that. So it will only give you the chance of representing one of the responses of your respondents if you code everything in the same value label. So this is how you treat multiple response questions. You have to spread them out, and you can see the same thing was done for this question 24. And let's look at the question. And this is the question. Question is, what are the substance of abuse you know? We have tramadol, we have codeine, we have marijuana, we have nicotine, we have cola nuts, alcohol, etc. And to get, since it's a multiple response question, because it's possible your respondents knows more than one of them, and you have to represent how much he knows, because we can see here that each of the the substances were represented in their own separate rows, from codeine down to cocaine. So with this, you can collect data for each of the response and know how many you know. So take note of this Likert scale questions. You can see that we have undecided, agree, disagree. So ideally, this is how you code it. Okay, this is done as it is represented in the questionnaire. So there's actually no issues. Just know what you use for your coding. In some cases, it could be done as agree, then undecided in between, then disagree. You also represent that the way it is as well. And there are cases where you have strongly agree, then undecided or indifferent, then disagree, then strongly disagree. You start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the ID coding you should use for your Likert type scale questions. So let's look at our Likert scale type of questions. So we have here, as it is represented in the questionnaire, you can see the question: substance abuse a good practice, I disagree, I don't know, and all the other questions in the section C of the questionnaire. Now, like I stated earlier, you ought to represent this data as ordinal data, and when coding, you are supposed to use just like the way it's coded. Probably you can use 0 for undecided, agree, disagree, just as it's represented in questionnaire. Finally, you may also want to do your coding for your names using the questions in your questionnaire, like what was done in this place, what I actually did here. You can see I just use questions. These are multiple choice question 14 needles, question 14 scalpels, question 14 scissors, question 14 medication vials. So, and this 18, this 17, 18, 19, just following the questions. It can also save the stress of having to type long stuff. But so long as you can recognize what you are doing in your data view, you can use that coding method.